Hi guys, in today's video we are going to be learning how to cut a straight skirt with a zipper at the back, an overlap, a band on the waist and an elastic band attached on both sides of the waist. Let's get right into the video and see how it works. I'm going to be using this pattern to cut out this skirt. I already put up a video on how I show you in details on how to cut a straight skirt. While I was cutting the skirt, the back panel was not enough for me to get the measurement I needed for the overlap. So now before I go ahead to cut it, I'm going to make it up. What I need actually is 2.5 inches to make up for the overlap part of the skirt, which is what I'm marking now. After cutting out the pattern for the back, I'm going to go ahead to notch the areas I need to notch. This is the hem part of the skirt, and then I'm going to go ahead to notch the dart area and then the center back also. Now I'm going ahead to cut out the front part of the skirt. Please, if this is your first time on the channel, you're very much welcome. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and to share and also subscribe to this channel. I've also put up a video where I gave a detailed tutorial on how to measure and cut out this pattern which I'm using to cut the straight skirt. I've gone ahead to iron out the lining I'm going to be using to turn the skirt inside, and so you pay close attention to see how I'm going to be placing the fabric on the lining. The fabric is not going to be on the same length with the lining, but rather the skirt is going to come down a bit, just like you see me doing. Just do well to follow how you see me placing the skirt, and then I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. You're also going to be placing the front on the lining. Just the same thing you did to the back is the same thing you're going to do to the front. Now we're going to go ahead to the sewing machine to start fixing the lining. So this is the front. I'm going to open it up like so, and then place the down part of the lining on also, and then just run a straight stitch. Make sure that you're sewing you're running the stitch, that the name of the fabric doesn't show. It doesn't usually look nice when after sewing the name of the African print you're making use of is showing on the other side. So after running the stitch, I'm going to go ahead to top stitch, that's to sew on the lining area, to sew on the lining, not on the fabric but on the lining, like so. So after sewing that, I'm going to then turn this notched part, turn it like so, and then run a seam following the shape of the skirt on both sides. As a beginner, you may find it difficult having to arrange it properly before sewing, so I would advise that you first of all go ahead to pin it. Make use of your office pins to pin it, and before you go ahead to start sewing it, so that you do not experience any difficulty while trying to close up both sides of the skirt. After running the stitch on both sides, I'm going to go ahead to turn it out like this and make sure that the places that needs to be pointed out is well pointed out before I go ahead to iron it. Now the same thing I did for the front is the same thing I'm going to do for the back. So I'm going to run a straight seam, the same thing, make sure that the name is not showing. So you run the stitch a little bit above the name of the print at the hem of the skirt. It's just the same thing you did for the front, you are going to do here also. So I'm going to go ahead to also top stitch. You're also going to go ahead to sew the other part, which I'm not going to be showing, but it's just the same thing you did on this other part of the skirt that you're going to do on that other side. After doing that, you go ahead to iron it out properly. After ironing, you place the front on the back, and I've gone ahead to mark 8 inches and then 13 inches for under my boots. That's under your buttocks. Whatever it is, you measure from the waistline to under your buttocks, you fix it there. And then for my hip line, I used 8 inches. You can make it of 8 inches or 7 inches. So I've gone ahead to draw a straight line. Now from under the butt, I'm going to go in by half an inch. I've gone in by half an inch, and you see how I drew a curve from the hip line to connect it to under the butt, and you notice it is not just a straight line. So by giving it this curve, when you wear your skirt and you fix your zip, you see that your butt is going to fit in properly, and so the skirt at the back will not be flat sort of, but it's going to fit in properly because you have given it that shape. So after marking, you go ahead to the machine and then you follow exactly that shape that you have marked from the top to the bottom part of the skirt. And now I'm going to go ahead to mark my darts. I'm going to come down by 5 inches at the back, and then I'll just hold the part which I notched. I'm going to hold it like so, and then I'm going to then go ahead to sew the darts. For the front part of the skirt, I'm not marking 5 inches, but I'm coming down by 4.5 inches And just the same way you also sewed it in front, at the back rather, the same way you're also going to sew it for the front. After sewing that, I've gone ahead to iron it both front and the back. Now what I'm doing is pinning the front part of the skirt to the back part of the skirt. You make sure that the center of the front aligns with the center of the back. If the center of the front doesn't align with the center of the back, the fitting of the skirt is not going to be good. You are going to have your skirt going to one side, which is not really going to give a good picture of the work you are doing. So you make sure that the center of the front does align with the center of the back. Now I'm going to go ahead to close the measurements of the skirt. My waist is 32 and I'm going to divide it into two. What I have is 16 inches. Now I'm going to mark 16 inches just as you see me placing the tape. I'll mark 16 inches and then I'll bring the beginning of the tape again, and whatever measurement I have remaining, I'm going to divide it into two. And then whatever I have, I'm going to mark it equally on both sides. Now from the waistline, I'm going to come down by 8 inches for me to be able to identify where I'm going to mark my hip measurements. Now my hip is 39 inches. Divide it into two. What I have is 19 and a half. So I'm going to also place my tape like so. Mark 19 and a half. And check the measurements that I have, the inches I have remaining. Divide it into two. And then I'm going to go ahead to mark what I have equally on both sides, like so. After marking out the measurements, you are going to go ahead to connect what you have marked on your hip to the waistline on both sides before going ahead to then mark out what you're going to use for the hem part. Now what I have is 39 inches for my hip. I'm going to minus 4 inches from 39, and what I have is 35 inches. Now that gives us 17 and a half. So the same way, I'm going to place my tape on the other side, and then whatever I have remaining, I'm going to go ahead to divide it into two and then mark what I have equally on both sides. And then I'll now connect what I've marked on the hip line down to what I have marked on the hem part of the skirts. After doing that, I'll just go ahead to run the stitch through from the waist, double stitching it on the waist, and also when I get to the hem of the skirt, I also double stitch it. I've gone ahead to cut a 2 inches band, which I'm going to be running through on the waist now. From the center back, you're going to sew it by half an inch round the waist line, just as you see me doing. To get the measurement for the elastic that we are going to put in on the band, we are going to measure from the dart at the back to the dart in front, just like you see me doing. And what I got was 8.5, and 8.5 into 2 is 4.25. Now the width of the elastic you're going to be cutting is 4.25 plus 1 inch, and that's 1 inch is for the sewing allowance. To sew the elastic, you're going to place it directly above the dart line at the back first, and then you run a stitch. You come in by 1/2 inch and double stitch it so that it's going to be firm. You do the same thing by, you also take it over to the elastic, you take it over to the front dart line, and you also run a stitch on it, double stitch it to make sure it is firm. So it's the same thing you did on this side, you're also going to do on the other side. Now after stitching the elastic in the band, you're just going to go ahead to now sew the band like so. Just run the stitch through from one end to the other end. So I left a 10 inches opening from the band, measuring from the band down 10 inches for me to be able to fix the zip. To ensure that the overlap stays put, you open it up like this, and then on one side you fold it like this. Then you can insert a hemming gum. After putting in your hemming gum, you make sure to go over to the pressing table and use a very hot iron to ensure that the gum sticks to the fabric. If you do not want to make use of a hemming gum, you can also decide to tack it. Whichever one you choose to do is perfectly fine, so long as it comes out neat. But for me, I decided to go with the hemming gum. And this is simply how to sew a straight skirt. If you have any question or anything that doesn't seem clear, please let me know in the comment section. Now this is the end result of the skirt. Doesn't it look nice? Let me know if you'll be trying this out. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask. Until I come your way again, bye.